Hi friends, it's your pal Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about representation in Dungeons and Dragons. I'm a huge fan of Grace Randolph. She's a personal hero of mine. I have talked to her online several times. I've been blessed to have conversations with her online. Just short, back in here, back and forth. She's mentioned my name on her channel once or twice. It's nice. I'm very blessed, right? But she's a personal hero to me. And she's been talking, and she talks in depth about Hollywood. And recently, they were having a conversation about Snow White, and she said, people want organic representation, right? Now, and it was just a statement, right? And what she was saying is that people had gotten upset with Hollywood because they had changed the ethnicity or the race of a character here and there, and people got upset. They were like, we don't like this, right? And what she was saying is that right now in Hollywood, it's not that you can't race bend somebody or gender bend somebody. It's got to be organic, right? And I think, and what she was saying is people have gotten upset because they had been seeing this happening with a lot of different roles, and they didn't feel it was organic. They thought it was forced by Hollywood. So my question is there a way to do representation in Dungeons and Dragons organically, right? Now, I want to explore this. So, first of all, I'm not sure if there is. And the reason why is this is a medieval European, simulation, right? Or actually, simulation is the right word. The box Dungeons and Dragons fits in is a medieval European fantasy box, right? And that's a bunch of white people, right? Because there just weren't a lot of people of color in Europe in medieval Europe. There just weren't, right? Now, do correct me if I'm wrong. If I didn't understand, I mean, there might be a small amount, but there weren't a lot, right? It was mostly white people up in medieval Europe, right? And again, there's some historian out there. I'm willing to listen, right? But I think that's one of the problems. So there doesn't seem to be any way to accomplish this organically, and that is a problem. That is a very big problem, right? Because I think one of the reasons why Dungeons and Dragons got in trouble was the same reason Hollywood got in trouble. You know what? Actually, I think with Hollywood, they don't have the same excuse. They have a million different boxes that they can play in, right? Whereas D&D, and this just happened with the 2024 core rulebooks, that they showed like orcs eating tacos, right? I had no problem with that. I thought, oh, that's delightful. I have no problem with that. People lost their minds. Like, you should have seen Twitter. Twitter was aflame. It was just fire and ash, right? Like, it was just, and like people were like, how dare you have an orc eat a taco? And I'm like, for representation? And they're like, no, it's not organic. Are you saying the taco is not organic? No, the representation isn't organic, right? Like, so so the reality is I hate to do this, and I'm sorry, I apologize for doing this. In this video, I'm not going to answer this question. And the reason why is I don't have the answer yet. I do think it's a really valid, I think Grace is 100% right, right? People want representation that is organic. And like, I remember Mackenzie DeArmas claimed to put the first autistic person into D&D as a player character, as a non-player character. It was incredibly inorganic. It felt very anachronistic. It felt very 2024. It didn't feel medieval, didn't feel European, and it certainly didn't feel fantasy. It felt incredibly forced, right? Like, and so I want to be super clear about this. I want representation in Dungeons and Dragons. I want African American people up in Dungeons and Dragons. I want Asian people up in Dungeons and Dragons. I want, and not just, yeah, and no, okay, I'm not even going to go there. Okay. I want Hispanic people in and you cannot do it through species. We've learned that lesson, right? You can't even do what D&D used to consider a respectful homage. Like, man, you could not put out Oriental Adventures today, period. Well, literally, they cannot. They haven't done it for 10 years, right? Like, and Rokugan was probably the best, attempt at that, right? So it's rough. It is rough. So One, I think Grace has a very genuine point about Hollywood that 100% accurate for D&D. It's never been, it has not, actually, that's another thing, is has there ever been a point where it was organic? There might be. I got a lot of books on my shelves. I'm going to look through and see if it was organic. One of the most inorganics was Journey of the Radiant Citadel. So inorganic. It felt very inorganic, right? So the question is, can we do this in Dungeons and Dragons organically? And the answer is right now is I don't know. I don't know if I can remember ever seeing it done once, right? But I'm going to think about it, and I'm tasking you to think about it. Has there been an instance in D&D where representation was genuinely organic? And if the answer is no, can we reach organic representation in Dungeons and Dragons where people won't be upset, especially in a MAGA world, right? Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion and a genuine question to you. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion and hopefully your answer. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.